so much. And I feel that way too. Everybody here, everyone listening in, when you have a passion, sometimes that's your compass point. And I work a lot with leadership and meeting this community and working to uplift each other. I think this is the brave new world of XR collaboration in theme. So it's my honor to be closing out the session, and I want to extend thanks to Mohammed and team and everybody that gave their sessions earlier, whether it's morning, evening for you. I'll be also checking those out. So I have a few slides to go along with my presentation. So just at any point, if you want to, this is very much come as you are, feel free. We have a panel after this, so I'm keeping myself on time check because I'm going to be joined by a bunch of people on that panel in about 27 minutes. So if you have coffee like I do, or water, tasty beverage for the afternoon, feel free to just stretch. And this session is a lot about leadership and using some case studies in collaboration that I've been doing. And it's a nice time, actually. It's a difficult and challenging time, but it's a nice time to think about XR and collaboration and how we can each be a part in a way that breaks the boundaries of isolation that we might be feeling. So if you're feeling alone, or if you're feeling like you're part of a team, but you're spread across the entire world, you're not alone. And there's a lot about this time that is both maybe fear-inducing, but also possibility. I'm a fan of Haruki Murakami, and I wanted to start with this quote because we might feel we're in the middle of a storm as people who are breaking ground and leading, but that's kind of the nature of change and the nature of something that is transformative. And what I do in developing experiences in XR, I've been a programmer and an experience designer, and that's what I focus on, meeting people where they're at, involving a lot of challenge, and really talking about the nature of human connection in the midst of this technology, because the technology should serve as a bridge if it's operating the way that we intend it to. So I wanted to just throw that out as the theme, that it's all about connection. And then the nature of virtual reality, XR as well, it's different. This is an adaptation of something that the Stanford Virtual Human Interaction Lab put out as an explanation about the boundaries that are pushed in every dimension. So not just neck up, but when we're in this world, there's something that happens viscerally. And if you're like me, I started off in virtual reality as someone who was passionate as a gamer, as a player, as somebody who just loved to come in and feel like I was both very much part of myself and also out of myself, just complete loss of inhibition. So this nature of feeling things deeply, for me, it's part of our human nature, and I remind myself that technology is not separated from a natural thing. We are part of nature, and what we're feeling in there is also something that can connect to our real world, our presence as leaders, and our presence in community. So I think one of those maybe stigmas that's starting to break down is that VR or XR is escapism. And actually it's the opposite. In certain ways, it allows us to enhance our empathy, our capacity to understand each other, and to really dive into storytelling techniques and not just feel what someone else feels, but maybe even be moved to do something about it compassionately and be a voice for change. So what I've been doing and developing through my company MindWise, I founded a company 5 years ago, and I've been working in the areas of leadership and learning, using mindfulness techniques, using storytelling techniques and design, and creating something that is almost like a Google search inside yourself inside of VR. So if you've heard about that program, it really uses a lot of the scientific findings about the brain, the way we think, learn, and lead best, and taking people through these experiences that can be individual, but they're also really collaborative. So I'm going to give some examples of those as we go through, and then there'll be a little bit of time at the end for questions. But the idea underneath it all is transformation, meeting you where you're at and giving experiences that break boundaries. And I'm very conscious of the time right now. It's a time that is full of change, full of complexity. Last year, I published a book called Mindful by Design, and it debuted at the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2019. And when I was there, a lot of the business leaders were saying, well, this is a time for new metrics. How do we measure well-being? We have to measure it using a different standard, which requires maybe greater connection, definitely greater listening, and people in places where you would think it would be thriving are actually experiencing high amount of stress, high rates of depression. And so part of this nuance of how we use mindfulness and emotional intelligence is really acknowledging that there are a lot of pain points for people, especially people in high decision-making positions of being in leadership or in high positions in organizations. So how do we thrive in this world of complexity using some of the skills that would be the emotional intelligence skills? How to understand, how to apply those buzzwords of diversity and inclusion, how to be open and not fixed in your mindset and your standpoint, and really how to meet a moment that is so changing and complex that a lot of times having these skill sets in how to respond rather than react, and how to really harness a sense of balance in the midst of all this change. That's important. And certainly for schools, having experiences for teachers and leaders that have to do with the social emotional learning aspect, this has benefits throughout education and the classroom. So I've also been working with a lot of education leaders who have said, in this time of change, suddenly students can't learn in school, but as much as teachers might want to roll out a lot of curriculum pieces, the number one need they've been showing is the need for relationships first. How do they connect with students using this technology? And I think we can go far beyond areas of, let's say, Zoom. Ironically, you can go into an XR environment and have connection in a deeper way where people are exchanging and problem solving and really together in a community. So the three areas of mindfulness, well-being, and life design, they work together naturally in a lot of the experiences I've been leading in XR. And sometimes people ask me, what do I mean by mindfulness? What does mindfulness actually stand for? Because it can be also a term that's kind of vague. And I break it down to the 3 A's. So mindfulness stands for awareness, mindful awareness, building an ability to focus on this present moment and give it some meaning and sense of context. And focusing on the present moment could simply mean right now, paying attention to how I feel sitting in this chair, the 5 senses in my environment, maybe some thoughts that are popping into my brain, and just acknowledging them, and also aware of the system around me and other people, the environment. Advancing has to do with, as soon as I'm aware, I can look at my sense of presence and purpose, and even the stories I carry, some of the limiting beliefs that I might want to break past. And it has to do with that authenticity, because if we're operating from non-judgment and I really want to break those boundaries and have a transformation, then suddenly it's not a case of if I can do something, but more about how I can do something. And authentically is that fail forward mentality of using a resilience strategy of reaching out when you need help, also helping others. People say that the most trustworthy leaders are ones that are authentic and not striving to be perfect, but striving to really be reachable, genuine, and making themselves transparent both emotionally and intellectually. So a lot of this sounds abstract, but in VR you can play with it a lot, because neuroscience even shows that people get into an XR environment and their brains have more plasticity. You might even feel it yourself. You're either inside a fully immersive environment or you're playing with some AR model, and suddenly it's a curiosity, and we get into this play mode that is universal to our beings. We can use that to our advantage and really hone those skills. So I say it is a skill set, and it's never too late to start with something like this when you're curious. I bring it up because right now we're in a situation where the whole world is in a stage of difficulty, complexity, and yet there still is that feeling of wonder. And in XR, when I pull back and I have that sense of both capacity, agency, but then, there are moments that are just moments of pure wonder. And that's another aspect of what the programs I've been running really thrive on and provide. That deeper breath and that feeling that astronauts have talked about getting, that's called the overview effect. And the overview effect is when you're up in space and you look down on Earth and you just have this feeling. You've had all your engineering training, but really it's just about that sense of being and universal oneness, the feeling of just kind of losing yourself in that sense that everything is connected. And recently, every year we come together and we celebrate Yuri Gagarin and space exploration. My grandfather helped build astronaut spacesuits, so he was an inspiration for me, and I really love space, and I really love space exploration and travel and all kinds of futurist possibilities that people celebrate these days in our kind of state of looking toward the future and wondering what might be. And Claude Nicollier spoke recently about his feeling of being the first Swiss astronaut to go to space, and he said he just dropped out all of he knew his stuff, he knew how to operate and use the spacecraft and all of that, but he was looking down at the Earth and just experienced a sense of wonder that washed over him. So also giving ourselves chances in XR to use that sense to really get back to ourselves and back to our deeper missions we might be feeling. So connection, fostering deeper voice, whether that's voice for storytelling, telling a compelling story as a leader, using all of those principles to help decision make. These are all aspects of some of the experiences that I've been developing and leading. And this has been over several years. So the fact that this is not new, these experiences developed in VR have been about that connection between the inner self and what might be the outer decision-making, our world of work, our world of pressure. So some people actually say that when they feel a disconnection between the inner world and your outer work life and external life, that's where things start to break down and start to feel less authentic and genuine. So how do we foster that connection capacity and let people lead from a point in themselves that feels genuine and pure and connected to their bigger voice and vision? And I will say, if I stare too long at the slide, it becomes mesmerizing. XR collaboration. So the three areas through the years of experiences and research, and there are new experiences all the time that this program is rolling out. I've seen three topics just pop up as very important for people in terms of what they're looking to build and what solves their pain points. And this would be people in different industries. This would be enterprise teams looking to collaborate in a meaningful way and to achieve goals when they're inside of VR. So how do they have trainings that foster better relationships, a sense of trust? The second area is well-being, which includes health, emotional health, mental health, physical health. So all areas of well-being. And I do work on digital therapeutics applications as well that target areas specifically like stress and depression and burnout. So this collaborative nature can be very well-being targeted. And then the third area that's been very useful to work with is the area of active imagination. So a notion of people having a sense of agency, like being able to create inside of XR and use their imagination to have better innovation. So strategies that involve creative capacity. You know, how do we take something that's known, maybe two things that are known, and create a link and something new that hasn't existed before? You get in a mindset to do that in XR with certain conditions. So that's been what MindWise VR has been focused on, and now it's moving into MindWise XR, also working with some AR technology and some different wearables that have certain biofeedback. So that's coming as well. But these experiences that can break boundaries and certainly use technology in a way that focuses on connection. So it shouldn't be us just riding the ride. It should be us feeling that we're the agents in these boundary breaking experiences. So I wanted to show you just a few slides, and I will say that when we get to the Q&A, I'll drop some videos into the chat so that you can take a look yourself and see some of the action, because we've had some spatial captures inside. This is an example of one of the experiences I led that was inside a social platform called Engage. And so this is a video playing around us, surroundscape, and we also had exercises that we were doing as a group, 3 different continents represented all together, people. Some of these were in partners, some of them were in a group together, and it was really exciting because we had people that had never met before having these amazing experiences for a day workshop. And this was a workshop that I co-led in AltSpace, and we had a focus on mindfulness and well-being, and then also some exercises so you can kind of see the different mats laid out. We were also playing with some motion in the second half of the experience. And it was nice because you can create your own environment and really set the certain boundaries, but also leave certain parts up to the imagination to explore and play with. This was one of the pieces of feedback. That's a lot of text, but you can read a testimonial about the experience and what someone was feeling. And I like that sometimes we approach stress and we get so serious about it. Like, you know, it's a spiral of, if you're experiencing stress or if you're experiencing some beginning stage of what feels like anxiety, how do you address that? And these leadership programs also meet that head on and incorporate fun. So there's a lot of exercises that have to do with spontaneity, some with perspective taking, but also levity. So how do we keep that levity involved? This is an experience where I gave a talk and I was inside of a CGI moon landing arena and used 3D objects as a memory capture. So you can see the slides behind me, but instead of using the slides, I used the objects to create a memory palace. So every time I was leading something that was based on a concept, instead of the words standing for the concept, I used the objects and really showed the objects, and then had the audience submerged underwater at one point, and had a breathing exercise where an object grew larger and smaller. So it's interesting when you play around with the way that the brain works and what really fosters better memory and understanding of a concept, the ability to show that in a three-dimensional object and to have other people then pass it to someone else and have them manipulate it. People's feedback afterwards were that the concepts were so alive for them. They could recall pretty quickly and feel that they made the experience their own because it was interactive. And that's part of what I had put in the description in the beginning about this talk. We shouldn't be trying to recreate reality in XR. We should be trying to go beyond what are the limitations in this reality and create something that is better suited to what might be missing for our brains. So another testimonial here. And I do think it's special to be in lifetime with a bunch of people from different places or from the same team, but meeting in a different medium. There's something special that happens that's very visceral and magical. For one experience, we were looking at different breathing exercises and also storytelling, and we went into a wonderscape. It was all snowscape and aurora borealis, and had all kinds of amazing talks there, and also some music playing in the background that kind of fit the experience. So sometimes these are a mix of what might be topical and also some of the practices that you have with emotional intelligence. You can bring in all kinds of creative applications and mix them inside of XR. And this is a world purely created for this experience. And another one, we were hanging out in the middle of the stars. So in the middle of the universe, again, talk about overview effect when you're hovering in space and have comets passing by you and the group all together. I will say in the design strategy, you have to be careful in this environment that you don't have a comet shooting from behind and scaring people. So I have humor about that, but also a lot of care with the way that I cultivate the experience is usually building, and then a hero's journey where you go into worlds that are unknown and have some levels of challenge. And that's the key, to create a safe space to take risk. So a space where people are invited. And that notion of reaching others and being able to understand their perspectives. There's a great quote, "How can I reach you if I can't understand you?" So some experiences are just one-on-one, all different things that you can do inside of VR that allow you to reach closer and observe better. And in these environments, it feels like a breath of fresh air, especially in the times that we're in right now. So those are a few just tastes of the customized experiences and professional development that I've been doing inside of XR. And I have 2 experiences that are coming up, and you see the website at the bottom, my name, CaitlinKrause.com, and then VR/VR. And if you want to join those are open sessions. So some sessions are private and they would be with a specific team or individual, and some are open where people have been joining from around the world to have these experiences. You might wonder, do I need a headset? There are different, in the link you can see all of the capacities and what's supported for the experience. You can join on a desktop. As you might imagine, it's not as immersive, but it's possible. So you can be a 2D avatar that joins and tries these experiences for yourself. So I will pause now and take some questions. I'll also drop the links that I mentioned into the chat window. And again, just thank you for this time to share together from all over the world. I think 14 countries, people together. That motivated me to be a part of this. Yeah.